This is Hot Import Nights.
What's up everybody, it's Priyon Joni, and over here I have my entry-level controller, the DDJ-SB3. And when you have an entry-level controller, unlike its bigger brothers and bigger cousins, like the DDJ SR or the SX, or even like an RX2 or a DDJ-1000, one of the things the entry-level controllers lack is having inputs so that you can actually use it like a mixer if you wanted to add CDJs. So when you have an entry-level controller and you want to use CDJs, you're kind of out of luck. Or are you? So let's paint a couple of pictures why you would even want to do this. Let's say you're very frugal and you started off with the most inexpensive Pioneer controller, like an SB3. You had your mind set to buying the entire Nexus setup. And let's say you saved for a really, really long time and you have at least about $4,000 and you can pick up a pair of CDJ-2000NXS2s. Up to that point, you don't have a mixer. And you have your mindset to getting the DJ-M900NXS because you want the complete ensemble. And let's say you don't want to compromise, you don't want to get an RX2 all-in-one system. You want the full Nexus setup. You don't want any other mixer. So you got as far as getting the CDJs, and you have your entry-level controller. And at first glance, you don't have a way to use your CDJ-2000s. Or maybe in another scenario, let's say you go to a club, they have CDJ-2000s, you're a little unfamiliar with the mixer and you like having your pads, your cue points at easy access, and you're more comfortable with your software using your controller, but you want to expand your setup and include the CDJs. Or maybe one last scenario, you're like me, and there's no logical reason you would want to do this aside from you get a kick of using really, really cheap equipment to control really, really expensive equipment. So today, I'm going to show you guys how to use your entry-level controller with two CDJ-2000NXSs. Okay, so before you guys freak out that I put my SB3 on top of a DJ-M900 and a DJ-S1000, I took a safety precaution of taking acoustic foam, putting it right here. The pressure is not on the knobs or the faders. On the DJS, it is on the buttons, but if the buttons can take a beating from you performing, I think it could take the distributed weight of the foam and the controller. And it's nothing near as bad as when I see people put a laptop on top of a CDJ jog wheel. You have no idea how many times I had to play on a broken jog wheel because somebody's been putting a laptop on it. For those of you guys who do that, I hope your laptop falls on the floor. Just kidding. Don't do that. So basically, on an entry-level controller like a DDJ-SB3 that runs on Serato, or maybe something that runs on Rekordbox like a DDJ-400, we know that there is no inputs for audio to control any external decks. And also, on a CDJ-2000NXS2, and I believe on all current model CDJs, there is a function called HID mode. So what HID mode does is it essentially converts the CDJ into a controller. Instead of being an audio source, it can control software in the computer like Serato, Virtual DJ, Traktor, or Rekordbox, and it can control it in the same way that it manipulates the music as a standalone device. When you have a controller, like a DJ controller, and you have a CDJ-2000 in HID mode, it essentially allows you to control each deck that you sign to inside the software, and all the audio just comes from the controller's sound card. And that's why I'm able to do this inside the software. So let's show you how I did this. Right now I am running Serato DJ Pro. On my controller, I have the USB directly to the computer, and the CDJ's USB plugs are into a hub. The reason why I didn't put the controller into the hub is because, unlike its bigger brothers, this controller is only powered by the USB port. And when I plug it into the hub, it doesn't power up. Now you could probably get a better hub, but I do suggest going direct so that there is no interference with the sound card or powering the device, because this is going to be the main heart of your entire setup. Now I have the hub plugged in to the computer as well. So first let's open Serato DJ Pro. Going to load a scratch sample, and as it normally should, my controller works. Now to get the CDJ-2000s to work, you have to turn on HID mode. On the right deck, you click link, you push to connect, and then what you do is you use this knob to scroll, and you set the left deck to deck number 2. You can see that it'll say deck 2. On the left side, you also click link, click to connect, then you scroll until it says deck 1. Don't know if you can see that. Click down. There we go. And now, not only do you have control from your controller, you have control on the CDJ. For me, I find this easier because I like the bigger jog wheel of the CDJ when I scratch. You also have your hot cues. And one cool thing I noticed is when you're using the controller and you're changing your tempo range, you can only change it to 8, 16, don't know if you can see that, and plus and minus 50 for wide. When you're using the CDJ to change the tempo range, you can change it from 6 instead of 8, 10, 16, and for wide, you get a full 100. And not only is it 100 on the CDJ, but it's even 100 on the controller. Just something I noticed. I know that's not a big deal, but it's just cool that it's almost like it unlocked a certain function on the controller. Hopefully there's more to be discovered. So somebody might ask, why not just use your controller? Well, the controller has a very, very small jog wheel, and when I scratch on it, it creates these really, really high-pitched sounds. So, because it's so small and my hand doesn't take much distance to create scratches that sound very high-pitched. So, and maybe you like that, but this isn't the most comfortable thing to use. I'm very squished when I do it. So for me, using HID mode with my controller allows me to get a little bit more finesse when I scratch. Now, one of the limitations, and this one's already obvious, is that you can't use the CDJ as an audio source, as I mentioned earlier. So if you wanted to use it with a Rekordbox loaded flash drive, you can't do that. You can't use timecode, DVS. You're essentially limited to the HID mode controller functions of the CDJ-2000. So right now I showed you guys how to do it on Serato DJ Pro. Let's see if it works on Serato DJ Lite. Okay, so I opened Serato DJ Lite, and when I get on the controller, press link, it is not giving me the options to select a deck. Now I'm going to try restarting this because sometimes it will do that as well when you've had the CDJ on for a long time, and sometimes the restart will fix that. And it really is not reading Serato DJ Lite. So the answer is no, it doesn't work with Serato DJ Lite. Okay, so what about Pioneer's DJ software, which is Rekordbox DJ? Now, my SB3 doesn't work with Rekordbox natively. I'm going to go get the SB2. Okay, so let's open Rekordbox. Okay, I'm going to load that same scratch sample. And one thing I noticed is that on the SB2, the jog wheels aren't as perfectly responsive as they are on Serato. Like, I have to push down a little more. Now, mind you, the SB2 is a Serato specific controller and isn't really made for Rekordbox, but it has the option to use Rekordbox, unlike the SB3, so I don't expect it to be perfect. Now, if I really needed a more responsive jog dial, let's see if HID mode works with Rekordbox and the SB2. So, click link, press down, choose Rekordbox deck. It took a little bit of time to get that to come out. I thought it wasn't going to work. And now we have a Rekordbox deck. And let's see. Oh my gosh, that feels so much better than this platter. And one cool thing though you'll see is that the rotation marker actually moves when you're using the jog wheel. So yeah, Rekordbox, it works just fine. And another thing I noticed about the SB2, since it's not a Rekordbox specific controller, is the rotation resolution. You kind of hear the little bits when you're going slow. But when you're on the CDJ, it's a lot smoother. So it kind of has like a really, it's like just a little like digital warbling sound. Almost like grungy. Well, it's smoother on the CDJ. So yeah, SB2 entry level controller can work with a CDJ-2000 in HID mode. So what about Traktor? There's a lot of folks out there, and especially if you watch DJ Tech Tools, that like to do custom MIDI mapping for Native Instruments Traktor program. Now you can actually MIDI map a Serato made controller to work with Traktor. The biggest downside, however, is the fact that the jog dials, when you use MIDI protocol to map it, it is not as responsive. In fact, there's like a latency there, and that is why you don't see anybody on YouTube doing any heavy scratching with a Serato controller mapped out to Traktor. What I have seen is you can have a Serato mixer or a Serato controller as the output device, and I've actually done this before with a Rain 62, and you use the CDJ-2000 in HID mode to do all the scratching and transport controls. So let's see if we can actually do that with our entry-level controller. So the thing about Traktor mapping is that there's no official plug-and-play solution for an SB3 to work with Traktor. A lot of these mappings are actually made by folks who programmed it themselves. And there's so many different types of mapping depending on how the author created the mapping. You just get to choose one based on what you want, how you want your controller to function. So I got this one from DJ Tech Tools in a forum, and it was posted by a guy named Worston Brood. It's called SB3 Traktor version 0.1.6. And what you get is when you open it up, you get a TSI file. Go to Preferences inside Traktor. Go to Controller Manager, then you click Import, then you go to where your TSI file is. Let's resort, date added, right there, highlighted, controller mappings, and then you go to Audio Setup and you route this to, what's it called? See, the CDJs even show up as an output device, but in this case, we're going to use the DDJ-SB3. So I'm going to load one of my scratch samples that I've been using. So when I tried it, nothing happened. I think I forgot to put input port DDJ-SB3. I put port DJ-SB3. Yep, in Controller Manager, I think I'm supposed to do that. Let's see. Let's try this again. Okay, so I got this working. But I can tell that the response time is a little delayed. So what happens is that there's kind of like maybe a quarter of a second or maybe half a second between the time I move this and the time that it actually responds in the software. That is the one side to MIDI mapping a jog wheel to software, because MIDI, being an older protocol, is actually kind of slow for something as high resolution as a rotational device like a jog wheel. So what we're going to try to do next is, in addition to the mapping of the SB3, can we get the CDJ-2000 to work in HID mode with Traktor and have a better responding jog wheel? So I restarted the CDJ-2000 and I'm going to click link. Press OK. It says turn encoder to choose Traktor deck. Looking good. I want deck B because this is my right side. Let's try the other one. Click link. Click down. Nothing's going on. I didn't restart this one. Let's try it again. Click link. Push to connect. There we go. Turn on encoder to choose Traktor. I'm choosing deck A since this is the left deck. So my problem with trying to scratch with the SB3 inside Traktor is that it's impossible on the jog dial of the controller, because there's a little too much delay and my timing between the fader is a little laggy. And once again, that's why you don't see people on YouTube ever trying to do any complicated scratches with their Serato controller mapped to Traktor. But now that we have a CDJ in HID mode, will it be more responsive? Okay, so I'm going to play an instrumental, and then I'm going to first try to scratch on the controller deck, and then I'm going to switch to the CDJ-2000. I'm going to try my best to do the same exact scratches. I can't even get a chirp out. So much more effortless trying to do the same exact motions, because the CDJ is more in real time. See, I'm doing my best to just do the same exact scratches, but I can't do it in the same timing. Now, let's do something complicated like a transformer. Let's try a crab scratch. A little delayed. Let's try. I'm going to try exactly the same thing. So there you have it. If you want to use a Serato DJ controller mapped out to Traktor, and you need to be able to scratch with good real-time response, you can use the CDJ-2000 in HID mode in addition to the controller to get that better feeling jog wheel. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, be sure to subscribe to me, click that bell, and I will see you guys at the next Hot Import Nights car show.
This is Hot Import Nights.